Family members are guided extensively on how to manage triggers. Triggers for me, triggers for the addict. What to say, what not to say, how to respond, how not to respond, what to have in the house, where to go, where not to go. The list is endless. What about your triggers?
Yeah,
What about your triggers as a spouse or a partner and the things that we can do that drive them to trigger? And then when they trigger, they're told you need to respond better. You need to be more supportive. You can't respond that way without first having empathy for the reason they're responding that way and the changes that have taken place in their mind that have led them to respond that way. Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Till the Wheels Fall Off. I'm Matt.
I'm Paige.
Today we're going to be discussing Paige's perspective episode, which is about why spouses need more than addiction education. I think that your episode is huge, and just based on the responses we got right off the bat, and it's something people needed to hear.
Yeah, so I did that episode based on a comment that we received on Spotify, I believe. And if I don't know your name, but thank you for leaving this comment if you're listening. And you said, as the spouse, I'm basically told to become an expert on their addiction, yet they don't have to become an expert on my trauma. So if you haven't listened to that episode, you might want to go back. It's pretty short. It's about 13 minutes long, and you can listen to that. But on this episode, we're going to talk about Matt's perspective on that and how he feels the recovery world might be slipping a little bit when it comes to our experiences. We're going to talk about how it affects the brain. We're going to talk about the amends process and how there's a lot missing from that. And then just so much more based on his perspective, and I'll throw in some of mine as well.
Our perspective.
Okay, that'll work.
I've got a lot of things to say about it because it's true. You know, I've been to world-class treatment facilities. I sat through rehab programs and family education programs, and we've actually got some of the literature with us right now. The very book that you would be handed if you checked into one of these places, one that's very well known and very reputable. Probably tens of thousands of families go through it every year, and not a word about how trauma affects the spouse or the family or the partner, whoever it might be. Stuff wasn't really given to me. I learned this kind of on my own. It was because I had good people around me, but that's sort of conditional based on factors that you really can't influence or replicate. So in our ever-striving mission to change the narrative about what recovery really entails, this is going to be huge. It's going to be a very important conversation and one that we'll probably build on as time goes.
Right.
And yeah, again, thank you to the person that left that comment on Spotify. And we appreciate the comments, guys. We appreciate the recommendations. You can leave us a message on like Instagram or TikTok. We've also got right now in the episode description, you can click a button to recommend an episode, a topic, whatever it might be. If it's something that we haven't covered or something we feel is powerful enough that it warrants an episode, we'll do it. We'll do it. We appreciate it. We can't shout you out and we can't reply though. It's a one-way street, this thing, the way it works. You message us and we don't have any information on you. It just dumps into a mailbox and says, hey, you've got mail.
Yes, exactly.
So, hey, thank you to today's sponsor, SoberLink. If you don't know what SoberLink is, it is the world's greatest accountability device that resembles a breathalyzer. If you're someone like me and you're serious about rebuilding trust, we have to discuss what's going to be different this time. Chances are your words have lost meaning because empty promises, right? We've promised a lot of things. We haven't delivered on those things for one reason or another. What can be different this time is something like SoberLink something like SoberLink. Ideally, change behaviors are the best amends and apology you could ever make to somebody. Am I right?
Absolutely.
But let's be real. This process takes a long time. Paige said she felt like it took 1 to 2 years for any kind of trust to be rebuilt in our relationship. What if you could expedite that process? What if you could give someone a gift? And it's the gift of honesty, and it's the gift of truth, and it's the gift of accountability. It's truly a gift you give other people, but it's going to help you in the process as well. You sign up people who are on a contacts list, and they get notified every time you use the device, so they can begin to trust you. When you say you're just tired or you're acting a little funny because you've worked 3 doubles this week or whatever it is, and okay, they have to trust the data because the data is real. But on the flip side of that, they're going to be able to trust themselves if you've been lying, because now they can put 2 and 2 together and recognize lying behavior. So it's a gift, again, depending on how you use it, can be a gift for them or yourself. But either way, I think it's an amazing tool. And it's never been easier to get into one either. They've removed all the upfront costs. You used to have to buy a device, and then you used to have to buy a plan and reporting plan. Now they've taken that out. With a 1-year subscription, you can get this thing for $19 a month with no upfront costs. And since you're an awesome listener of this show, if you go to soberlink.com/wheels and enter your email address, they will send you a coupon voucher, and then they will mail you a $100 Visa gift card to apply toward really whatever you want, but ideally toward that monthly plan cost. So it reduces the cost of that monthly plan, and you're just renting the device. When you're done with it, it goes back, right? It's amazing. And I can't think of a reason you wouldn't want to get into one of these things if you're in a position where you think this could be helpful for you. And if you're on the other side of a relationship and it's cooked and you're done and you just want to make sure your kids are going somewhere safe, SoberLink has always been there for you in those situations, and they'll continue to be there for you in those situations. It's court admissible in all 50 states and in Canada, trusted by over 200,000 people, judges, lawyers. They all get it. And they know this thing exists, and you can get these written into your custody agreement. So at the very least, you can't change that person. You can make sure your children are going somewhere where you know someone's going to be sober. At the very least. Won't make them act right always, but at the very least, they're going to be sober, right?
That's true.
So again, soberlink.com/wheels. While you're on the internet, pop over to twfo.com. Check out everything that is TUFO. We've got some sweatshirts left. Not the one I'm wearing right now. This was a one of one because I'm the only guy that likes navy.
I love that. I wish we would have gotten that color.
Maybe we'll do it sometime. But we've got sweatshirts up there. We've got stickers. We've got maybe a few hats left. Recovery rocks. We've got recovery rocks. It's got our logo on the front and on the back. Oh my goodness, I just dropped that thing. I almost threw it. On the back, it says, "Thank you for being my rock." This is a really cool way to acknowledge the journey that someone else has walked with you through recovery. Spouses and partners don't get a lot of recognition. Very, very little. In fact, they're usually just called codependent and left to drown.
To go deal with our own shit.
That's pretty much what they get. So this is a really cool way to acknowledge what they've been through. Yes. If you're still together, it's your journey. Mm-hmm. Both of you, yep. Right? It's not just yours, the person who's trying to get sober and rebuild. It's really important. So you can find out more about us, twfo.com. And let's get this thing going.
Yes, let's go.
We've been on this thing for a little while. Apologies in advance if you start to hear a weird droning noise. So this awesome kid up the street mows our yard once a week. And we had to stop this episode a moment ago because he came too close to the side of this window that we're near. And I had to stop it. And we're going to restart it. But he not only mows, he uses a weed whacker. So when he gets over here with that thing,
I always
we're
call
not
it a
stopping.
weed eater.
It's a weed eater, yeah.
No, I just think it's funny. I hear people say weed whacker, but I always called it a weed eater.
It does eat, but it also whacks them.
But it's funny because we're from the same place. Like we grew up in the same city,
yeah.
But we say something different.
I think I interchange. I switched the two.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of smirking during the ad conversation because I heard him getting closer and I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to stop. He's going to stop the recording. And you didn't.
I didn't. I'm going to try to muscle through it. So apologies in advance. What in the world was that noise?
I just knocked over my pen holder. It's okay. It's all good.
Just pens all over the floor. Okay. That's nothing, man.
All right. Y'all heard our rant. Let's go on to the next thing. Okay. Let's get into it.
Let's do this.
Okay. So I really want your perspective on this. How do you feel like it can, okay, hold on. A lot of people would come to me and say that, oh, well, they do the 9th step. Okay. They have amends. They make amends. They're able to tell you they're sorry. So don't come at me and say that we don't understand your experience or whatever. I'm like, okay, that's very surface level things. The 9th step is just like, okay, I'm sorry for what I did to you. But do they really understand betrayal trauma? Do they really understand how lying impacts their partner and their behaviors and their brains? Do they really understand that there was trauma caused by them and their actions? Do they really understand that it affects their partner's safety, the way they view themselves, the way they view the world, and who they are as an actual person? So what do you think that that's necessary in recovery?
I do. I think that we are selling everyone short in this conversation, not just people like you, mm-hmm. but people who are working through recovery as well, because this stuff has to be acknowledged and learned about, like, deeply. It's very, very surface level, I think. And we're also assuming in this conversation that everyone's working at like a 12-step program, and they're not, right? Not everyone's working some sort of a 12-step program. Right. A lot of people these days are getting sober on social media. Like there's a lot of people that are getting sober on TikTok. Look at the hashtag sober talk. They're finding supportive communities and they're kind of picking up bits and pieces and they're kind of walking their own journey and they're getting support through social networks. It's really cool. But there's not I would say like a place where all this information rests and everyone can agree upon it.
Okay.
At the very least, I think it ought to be part of the conversation, because when I was in treatment, I wasn't given any information on the things that I'd done. Now, people aren't stupid, right? They know that some of the things that they have done have caused harm to others. And that's often where a lot of the shame comes from in addiction. It's thinking about how badly you hurt other people. Like, I know people who truly said, like, the reason they got sober was because the pain they caused other people was even worse than the pain they caused themselves, and they just couldn't do this anymore. Like, I cannot do this shit anymore to anybody else.
Very similar in my episode like that.
Yeah, and so it exists. People aren't dumb. They know that the repair needs to happen, but do they understand what's really happened, right? Emotional wounds are still looked at as sort of surface level, I think, when it comes to the addiction world, if it's not the addict. Because when it's the addict, we can look at them and their past trauma and what they've been through, and we can explain why addiction occurs in the first place. Addiction and trauma are very well linked. You can look at studies on this forever. And so we understand that. But what about something like codependency, which, by the way, is not a disease? And if I see that again, I'm going to throw a chair. Like, it's not a disease. It's not even an actual disorder. It is just sort of this colloquial term we give to a certain set of behaviors. And it's convenient, but it's not a real thing. I think what really it is, it's the result of trauma. It's the result of hypervigilance. It's the result of changes that have taken place in your brain as the result of betrayal trauma. Okay, this education is not given anywhere specifically. Smart recovery, I was just going through some smart recovery materials to see if they talk about sort of things like this. They acknowledge it in sort of the same way that AA does, in a different way. I really like the way they approach things. I do. But at no point in any of my addiction education did I ever get a real rundown on how my behaviors had affected and changed you over time. Mm-hmm. And I think what's really screwy about this is that we can all look at the behaviors traditionally that we've given to people who are stuck in addiction. And it's, you have weak willpower. Why can't you just stop? Just drop it, give it up. Like, what's the matter with you? But when it comes to spouses and partners, they are absolutely told that, right? Or you're told that you were sick before you ever met me. And I've heard that before. I've heard that in a group meeting, which was like half Al-Anon, half AA. And there were people who were identifying as someone who was codependent before they ever met the relationship. And I push back on that. I don't think that's true.
In all cases. It might be true in some cases.
Sure. I'm sure some people have some attachment wounds and things like that can lead them to that place. But in general, that's not true. It's absolutely not true. And the science supports this. Dr. Jake Porter was on our show, and he is an expert in betrayal trauma and its effects on the brain, in much the way that addiction is considered a disease. And that's because it structurally changes parts of the brain. It rewires the brain. And it is different from that of an ordinary person's brain. It is deemed by science classification purposes as a disease. Well, trauma is the very same thing, but it's considered a disorder. And if we're being real about it, addiction is a disorder. Substance use disorder and alcohol use disorder are the actual things listed in like the DSM. That's what it is. It's a disorder, right? But to call it a chronic brain disease, it's ridiculous. And like Codependence Anonymous calls codependency a disease. It's not, but it does structurally change your brain.
Well, the trauma.
Trauma does.
Yeah.
CPTSD, PTSD are forms of trauma that you've heard of that cause disorders in people that are long term. This is what's happening when you're in a relationship with someone who has been lying to you, who has been verbally abusing you, who has been hiding things, who has physically abused you. This causes brain injury, quite literally brain injury. And I think as the person who's rebuilding their life from addiction, we have to be made aware of these things. Not only because the empathy piece of addiction is so important to understanding that we're not the center of the world and that we have to share it with others. And you need to develop moments of sonder in your life where you look at the experiences of other people as every bit as valid as yours. Addiction kind of clouds that. But it's about, I think, what recovery should actually require. What's actually required when you're recovering. And that truly is understanding the damage done. People will argue that it causes shame, and I just flat disagree. Yeah. It's education. It's simply education. And for me, I use that education as a deterrent.
Yes.
To not go back and do something like that again, because I know that it's not just lying. It's literally damaging your amygdala.
Yeah.
And your fight or flight response.
Right.
It's damaging your hippocampus. It's damaging the pathways that allow you to tell true from false. I mean, it literally changes these things in the brain, guys. It's not just you want to be loved and you need to stop wanting to be loved. Like, you are acting this way for a reason. And this is not given credence. It's not given validity. And absolutely no one's talking about it, especially 12-step. I think 12-step, like in my experience with it, like the amends process. And we're also like, everyone's always like, we get attacked online. A clip will come out on this episode, I promise you. And I'll get attacked by a 12-stepper saying, well, I worked the 9-step. Congrats. That's awesome. I mean, I'm really am proud of you. I'm being sincere. But you are assuming that everyone does, that everyone gets that far. And a lot of times they don't. A lot of times they're getting like 1, 2, or they just never show up at all. And they're not doing that. You're also assuming everyone works a 12-step program, and they don't. They don't, right? And everyone's got kind of their own process for doing this, even if you have worked through a 12-step program. And depending on the quality of the people around you, it's going to look vastly different from someone else's. And so we have to, I think we really need to homogenize this. And like, this needs to be known for everyone.
Yes.
And if that means that we sit here in front of this freaking camera and these microphones shouting this stuff for the next decade, so be it. That's fine.
With the people that you've worked with in recovery, do you feel like the piece of shame was actually important for them to continue going because they recognized the dangers of their behaviors towards other people? Like, do you think that actually fueled them to get better?
100%. It's in 100% of the cases of anyone I've known who's recovered from addiction. And this is not just people who've worked through 12-step, is that they found a way to make sense of shame, and they found a way to repurpose their shame, and they found a way to live with that shame as a deterrent toward not being that person anymore. They can feel guilty, right? But guilty is saying, I don't want to do that again. Shame is saying, I'm a bad person. What's the point?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that shame is an important driver. So if you happen to feel a little shame, like, it's not the end of the world. It's okay. Like, you're supposed to feel bad when you find out these sorts of things. It's important. It's an important part of the journey forward.
So why do you feel like the recovery world has kind of gone to the other side of tiptoeing around those tough emotions towards people?
I think that we've got an incentive in a lot of ways to focus on the addicted person. And I've got conspiracy theories on this, not real conspiracies. I'm sure there's some truth.
You got theories. Let's just say that.
But I think that there's also they are the most obviously afflicted person in the circle, right? So you can look at the damage that everyone has going on in their day-to-day lives. And there are some high-functioning alcoholics or addicts, but they're drowning internally. But there are also those that we think of a lot of times who are living under bridges. They're barely functioning. They can't go, a few minutes without getting high and nodding off.
It's life or death at that point.
It's life or death for them. And so it's like, who needs attention most immediately?
Okay.
And so then you start to craft and center programs that focus on that, with simply just that.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that you can't help but think about the treatment industry, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And who is it supporting and who's paying their bills, right? Like, so there's still some private pay facilities out there, like the bougie ones, the luxury ones, but it's insurance companies, right? They're insurance companies. And these insurance companies are looking at, okay, how do we mitigate our costs as much as possible for hospital bills from ODs or anything else? And they have tables for this stuff, guys. This is what some guy does. He sits there as an actuary and he figures this stuff out. And that's how they determine these insurance rates and how much treatment centers get paid. And they look at their recidivism rates and all this stuff. But there's an industry that is quite literally focused on that. So the more of that sort of information you can come up with, the more you can sell it to people or offer it as a service to people.
Right.
I don't mean to say it like it's like predatory, but it's a fact.
Well, yeah, it's a business. But
And with spouses and partners, it's yet to be recognized in that way.
Yeah.
Spouses and partners have real trauma, but you don't have treatment facilities to deal with some of this stuff. Abused women, there are resources out there, but an insurance company isn't going to give you disability and allow you to file FMLA and disappear for 30 to 45 days. Not to mention, even if they would, and I'm not 100% on that, maybe they can, but even if that's possible, you've got children, you've got a fort to hold down, because remember, the other person isn't really functioning in relationship. So once again, it's all on generally the woman to carry all this weight. How are you going to disappear for 30, 45 days?
Right.
Or 90 days or whatever it may be. And so what we do is we look at, okay, what's the most immediate need, quote unquote immediate? And I disagree with that too. What's the most quote unquote immediate need? How do we service that? How do we service that industry?
Well, and I understand that their goal is to get somebody sober, but I almost feel like their goal is not to keep somebody sober, because in order to keep somebody sober, you have to prepare them for the real world and like the things that they have to deal with within their relationships, and to deal with the action, the accountability piece and stuff. But 30 days is not enough for you to even
not even close.
Even do
not
that.
even close. There was a story, I can't remember what it was, about why like 28 days was like the time period, but it goes way back and it's sort of arbitrary. If I recall correctly, like it's not science that says that's how long you should stay. Like in general, we know that behavioral changes take a long period of time, but you're right. In a treatment center, what you're generally getting is you're getting it out of your environment, which is good things, positive. You're getting detox, positive, good things. And you're getting usually after a week or two, clear-headed enough to start to gather some information about what you're going to do when you get out. And some of them do some decent jobs of outreach, like they call you once a month, but it's self-reporting, right?
Right.
How are you doing? I'm good. It could be with a beer in my hand. They don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I do know that a lot of treatment centers have gotten rid of their family programs.
After COVID,
they did get rid of them. And I have seen a lot of the programs and the way that they do things with the spouses and the family members. And I'm just like, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
I have seen a couple out there that have actually gone the route that we've gone, where they actually recognize the trauma. I haven't dug deep into it specifically, but I do know that they have changed some of the verbiage a little bit to where it's not like, oh, you're codependent, you're an enabler, you need to just go get your shit fixed. It is more of like, okay, we know that their actions have truly impacted you, and here are the things that you need to do to know, get better or work on those things.
Yeah. And conversations like that are like 1% of the 1%, if they're happening at all.
It's not common.
It's not what you're finding commonly, right?
No.
Commonly established, it's that you're a codependent. Don't be. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Like literally someone just left that comment in one of our videos.
Yeah, they did.
It's like almost word for word, which is what you're generally told. And that's the information that people are getting. And the people that want to argue assume that everyone got their information from where they got it. And I'm telling you right now, on the other side of this thing, and as someone that's very open to all passive recovery for both sides, these conversations really aren't happening.
No, they're not.
They're just not happening, man. And like the shame piece of it all, I think a lot of it boils down to that. What can we do to make this person's recovery journey more successful? And at some point, somebody decided to sacrifice a family, a spouse, and a partner in order to do that. And I believe that, I don't think it was malicious, but at some point they knew, and now they're conscious of it. And so now it could be argued that's sort of malicious. That's abusive. You're withholding information that you know to be true. Like the information's out there now. It exists. At one time they didn't know. So why are we still teaching this stuff is what I'd like to know. Why are we still teaching this? Why is this still the standard for recovery? Like it was important for me to understand what I did to you. Massively important to understand what I did to you.
Yeah.
It helped me understand how deep some of this stuff went and the real consequences of the things that I was doing that I can minimize. The same stuff that we sit in AA meetings, for instance, and laugh about.
Yeah.
The lies that you tell and the shit that you do. And it's funny to us because you've been there. But if you haven't, that shit ain't funny. This shit ain't funny. Like there's like an old saying around Al-Anon and AA, for instance, that in the like if they're happening in the same hallway, in the AA room, you hear laughter, and in the Al-Anon room, you hear tears and crying and just despair. And that's the truth, because those things that we minimize and those things that we kind of laugh off, and it's like, yeah, I lied. Yeah, I cheated. Yeah, I did whatever it was. But like, that's not a reflection of who I am. I have a disease. And yeah, I'm responsible for the repair, but what does repair mean? What does repair look like? And do we think that making an apology is something? Sure, it is. Change behavior is ultimately where it's at, but I think it's more than that even.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's an acknowledgement of the actual damage done. And that's what's not happening, is this conversation that acknowledges the actual damage done.
Right. So I kind of want to go through this little chart that we received in your treatment. So this was how long ago? Almost 12 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
But I still think
Almost
I still see
13.
this everywhere. So it's not like it's completely off base. But I read this to Matt earlier, and I was like, I want to see if you can come up with the problem with this. And he was able to figure it out very quickly. So you want me to just go through it real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is just suggestions for the recovering family. So for the addict, it says, you've earned distrust, expect it. That was solid. I really liked that part. For the family members, expect ups and downs. Full recovery takes years. Very true. Accurate. For the addict, help your family learn about recovery and your major issues, such as your dangerous situations, what your support group is like, etc. For the family, get outside support and develop outside interests. Okay. For the addict, invite your family to join you at group meetings and make opportunities for them to meet some of your new positive friends. For the family, get involved in your own recovery, learn more about recovery and how it can affect families. This is about the family systems and the family dynamics is what they're referring to, and how we all play a part within the dynamics, which that's a whole other episode that I could go off on. For the addict, be open yourself to meeting your family members again, because you may be seeing them in a new light, seeing they have strengths and weaknesses you never noticed before. For the family, keep your home as free of drugs, psychoactive medicine, and alcohol as possible. For the addict, try to make at least one family member a partner in recovery, someone you can be fully open with and rely on. For the family members, make your expectations and rules clear and confront problems honestly, but avoid giving lecture. For the addict, do as much for yourself as you can without relying on family, but when you have a legitimate need, don't be too proud to ask for help. For the family, be open to meeting some of the ex-addicts' new friends and joining in some recovery group activities. For the family, don't try to protect the ex-addict from normal problems or provide help where it's not needed. Okay, but what's missing here?
There's nothing in this about the addict understanding the damage they've done. Almost every single one of those is geared toward the family supporting the addicted person. And the degree to which they insinuate that you need to have a recovery of your own, they don't tell you what that looks like.
Well,
They don't tell you exactly where to go. I mean,
it does.
Al-Anon's basically
it tells you over and over again where to tell you. It says Al-Anon throughout the entire book.
That's basically it.
My problem is that it's telling the family members to be involved in their recovery as much as possible. Go to their meetings, understand them, meet their new friends, but never does it say for them to go into their recovery area and to learn about them and what they're dealing with and what they've been through. It doesn't say that. It's all about you again. Right. And I think that it needs to be both. That's why we always say you recover separately, but together. Truly.
Both people have been harmed here. And we're acting like only one person is. And the degree to which the other person is harmed, it's minimal. Don't worry about it. That shit will fix itself. And it's just not true. Like, there's this old joke in AA that Al-Anon is referred to as quote unquote the enemy camp. The enemy camp. Why would that be? Because you're held accountable there, because you're questioned, because some of the stuff that you come home preaching is second guessed.
Okay, but there are some people who will say you need to go to Al-Anon so that you can understand what I'm going through more.
Yeah, man.
And that's another thing. It's
another way I think of saying, unless someone genuinely does not understand the first thing, right? You can not say you can't learn things there. You can, but I think it's another way of saying, when you go there, you're going to hear things that get me off the hook about what you're pissed about right now. That's the nicest way I can put it.
Yeah.
I think that's basically it. But what we're seeing here is this insistence that the family go way out of their way to support someone. And it's mixed messages too.
Oh, there's a lot in this book.
On one hand, they're told, do not be an enabler. And then one of these, it says, you need to go to their meetings. You need to be open to meeting their new friends. They need to have at least one person in the family as a support buddy, basically, that they can rely on and to go to for help. But then the families are told, don't do things to help them. And this is confusing rhetoric. This is what I think people get so confused about, is that it's mixed messages and it's all over this thing. And this is like a 100-page family education manual.
No, there's only parts on the family education.
This was the thing I left with.
This was everything about you, like the addiction and stuff. But there were some sections on the family. So that's what I was going through earlier. And I mean, look, guys, it's not all bad. Like, there's some solid stuff in here. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
Like, we're not nitpicking all this stuff or anything like that. But I think that this is such a big issue that does need to be addressed. But there was a part in here that was talking about letting go. And it says that you have to look realistically at the alternatives of what to do within this relationship, which would be to go on putting up with the crazy behavior, which that really rubs me wrong, because it's like, yeah, a lot of us are victims in these situations, and you're sitting here telling me that I'm just putting up with crazy behavior when that is not necessarily true, because
that makes it sound like you're making a conscious choice.
That I'm making a choice to do that.
It.
Right. When we've discussed this multiple times, how very good you are at what you do.
We're great at what we do.
Addicts are very good at what they do. The manipulation, the sucking us back in, the love bombing, all the things. Like it's like this, they're just telling us that we're putting up with the crazy behavior. Like, oh, okay, yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. The other one is remove the dependent person from their lives. Okay. But what happens whenever you do remove the addict from your life too? Like you get people calling you the wrong person. Like, how could you give up on them? How could you do this to them? How could you,
you gave up on them.
Yeah. You abandoned them. You're the reason for that. Why didn't you help them more? It's like, okay, but it's very rare that someone tells you to do that. I mean, there's so many repercussions to that as well.
Yeah. And the people that do are oftentimes just assholes about it too.
Yeah.
They're like, just leave. That's the answer. I'm like,
right. It's like, no, that's not how it works. You cannot just leave. You cannot just leave. It doesn't work that way. We are very sensitive to that. It is a very difficult situation to be in. And you have to build yourself up and learn more about yourself and set those boundaries and listen to our show. You know how it works.
At some point you have to be convinced that this pattern will continue indefinitely.
Right.
And that takes a while.
Right. But then you say that's an option, but who's going to teach you about how to leave or your grief, the grief that comes along with it? The complicated grief that you get. Very complicated
Diane
to go
Boss
through that.
By the way, Dr. Boss.
Yeah.
But very few people are going to teach you about what it's like to grieve a relationship and how to process through that and how to prevent backsliding and going back in, how to remember your why and all that stuff. Like they're not going to teach you any of it. They're just giving you a simple 12-letter instruction and go on. Good luck with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It says, come to the terms with the fact that no one can change other people. Caretaking does not cause healthy change in anyone. Well, we're not necessarily caretaking. Most people these are trauma responses and trying to survive. So it was just very dismissive. Like there's a lot of invalidating, just a lot of invalidation in general when it comes to this. It's more like, okay, you're the problem. And I think that's also why a lot of family programs have gone away, is because they don't handle it very well. Because family members will come in and then the programs will say, okay, well, you need to work on your stuff. You need to do this. You're an enabler. You need to set boundaries. And we come across and it's like, whoa. Like, I'm not the problem here. Yeah. They're the problem. And of course we have things to work on. We know that. That's what we do.
There's a right and a wrong way to respond. But again, we need to acknowledge that those responses are oftentimes trauma responses. And it's not just someone being an asshole. It takes a long time to unlearn how to respond to something. And you have to have people around you who are being gentle and supportive. Who has that education other than the spouse? We're not teaching the addicted person like me. That'd have been really beneficial for me. When she responds a certain way, like, oh, okay, that's because her brain has literally been whacked by me. It's been rewired. I mean, I think every program sort of alludes to it, but I think that there needs to be a thorough education on it.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. But I did want to talk about our program real quick, because I discussed like in treatment facilities how they don't necessarily advocate for the spouses, but we do. We have our own program called Independently Strong. We do help people build themselves up. We validate you, educate, empower, help you on your own recovery and healing journey from what you've been dealing with, and just help you trust yourself again and to make decisions that are based on your values. You can get 75% off using code Wheelies75 at independentlystrong.com. You get a weekly support group with Matt and me, or Matt and or me, one or the other.
There's usually one of us.
Sometimes we cannot make it because of priorities, but you do have other people going through it that understand you, and it's great. I've seen so much growth going on in there. But you can check that out at twfo.com or independentlystrong.com.
I don't make many guarantees, but I can pretty much guarantee that you're not going to be called a codependent there.
Not necessarily.
Not by us anyway.
Well, no, we do have a module on codependency.
Yeah, we talk about it.
But we talk about it from
the issues with it too.
Oh,
and another thing is like as the program's updated and things like that, like you get access to all the updates as well. Like as we go through it, and we still learn more every day. At some point, if it's updated, you get access to that if you already have it, right?
Right.
But you wouldn't get the old stuff if you just pop in.
Yeah. Yeah, but it can change at any time.
We reserve the right to change our minds.
Yes, we do.
Oh, there's a clinical architect behind it too. It's not just us. Dr. Christopher Taylor, licensed counselor, constructed the course with us.
Yep.
So
awesome. Good stuff.
Knows a thing or two about trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. This is it's wild to me, sort of like the one-way street that this has all become.
Yeah, like we went too far, and I want to find the middle ground. I know that both experiences are super important to understand if you're rebuilding a relationship or, after addiction. So can we go through the pros and cons of mutual understanding and see what that looks like, and maybe just talk about that?
Anytime we're talking about an episode or anything like that, we'll have these ideas, and a lot of times the idea starts as like this biased perspective, and then we sort of massage it and we fledge it out and we play devil's advocate with it. And it's like, okay, well, if it's not being done, let's assume that it's not being done out of malice and that there's reason for it. Like, what are some of the pros and cons to presenting this sort of information to someone who's in, say, early recovery, or just say recovery? What are some of the pros and cons? And so we worked out a pros and cons list. And I think it's actually kind of gives you a bit more context as to maybe why this isn't so big, but I think that the pros are still going to outweigh the cons. Mm-hmm. So let's go to this. Let's talk about the pros first. It balances the scales. I think that when we're looking at partners and their behaviors, whether that's hypervigilance, whether that's being quote unquote controlling or whatever else, they're not just overreacting. They're not just being too sensitive. Their pain is real. Their pain is biological, and it deserves just as much recognition as the addicted person's suffering. It balances the scales in that regard. And I think about any sort of a relationship is going to require mutual respect. It's a two-way street, right?
For sure.
So I think that any good relationship has this. Mm-hmm. Like any right, customer and business and husband, wife, friends you've grown up with. There's mutual respect there. There's me having respect for your experience and you having respect for mine.
Yeah. And I know some people may think that I don't have any respect for your experience, but insane, I have so much respect for your experience.
That's absolutely
just because
insane.
I don't talk about like the addiction part of it and understanding that. Like I do understand it. I think many of us understand addiction. Like the majority of the world is
probably better than a lot of people who are actually dealing with it.
Well, I mean, if you read the biology of desire, it will tell you all the different ways that we are addicted to different things. Like our phones, love, all that stuff, whatever. It's not like we don't understand, but either way, I've don't know. I've been called out before about not understanding you or whatnot. And I understand your experience. I know why you did what you did. And I've said that a million times. But when it comes to the addiction piece, and I think that you would say this too, like that's just the small part of it. Yeah. It was the behaviors that needed to change more than anything.
For sure. Man, it kills me when people attack you at any point. Because I'm your best friend, your husband, I'm going to come for you. If you get a nasty gram on the internet, it came from me, not her. Okay. There's a 99% chance, but either way, this part has always killed me. It's like, you don't understand what I'm going through. And if you've never been there, you can't understand it. I think that's bullshit. I think that 100%. Addiction in various forms is part of the human experience, right? What is addiction after all? This is a haywire reward system. This is you getting reward from something. And I would argue anyone who has a cell phone is addicted to it. So you can figure out what it's like really quickly. I'm sure you've tried to be on your phone less, and it's tough, right? You understand addiction. Okay. It's a little different when it's a substance and you get like physical withdrawal and sort of the way it changes your mind. But the wiring is all the same there. Okay. Like it's part of, I think, something anyone can really grasp and understand. The people that say you can't talk about it because you haven't been one, it's bullshit. I guess depending on what you're talking about, but it's sort of bullshit because I think anyone can understand what it's like to be human and to desire something. And you have so much empathy for the experience of people like me and me specifically, because you know what went into that. You know about the trauma that was behind it. You know about everything. And that's because you care and you love me and you understand it. And we've been together for so long. But I think any spouse or partner can hear that and be like, well, I understand too. Partly because it was insisted that you learn these things. You need to learn more about addiction if you're going to solve addiction. No, I need to learn about addiction if I'm going to solve my addiction. You would need to learn about it to the degree that it's supportive for me, but you're told that that's basically all you need to do.
Right.
And then there's this little like sidebar and you want to get some support too while you're at it. Mm-hmm. There's this place called Al-Anon you can check out. And that's it. Mm-hmm. That's really all that you're given. And I just think it's bullshit that spouses don't understand it. Yeah, you do. You get it. You're human. You get it. Anyone who gets it, right? And you've probably learned more about it than your addicted loved one ever thought about, is my guess. You can speak on it. You get it.
Right. But then I also, I don't have, okay. If there are people who are not getting help at all for like a long period of time, there is a loss of empathy on that, because I can understand where they are, but I also understand that recovery is a possibility and that's a choice. And that's something that you can do, and you can, because I've seen it, I've witnessed it, I watch it. But if you spend your entire life on doing the same thing over and over again and harming other people, then a little bit of my compassion is kind of,
naturally, I would think that anyone does this with
I would hope
someone or
so.
some situation in your life. That's not unique, but it's almost like addiction is supposed to get all these exemptions for
Yes.
the pain caused, for the things that we do. And it's like, I know why they're trying to save lives, but what about the other lives that are involved? Like, why is empathy such a shallow pool, as one of my favorite writers says, a shallow pool of empathy from which we can only pull so much, and of what's in there, every bit of it must go to the addicted person. That's not the way empathy works. It is a limitless resource. It is not scarce. You can create as much as you want, vast amounts. Spouses get very little. You're blamed. You're told you're codependent. It's like someone said, you caused the addiction.
Oh yeah, somebody did say that.
A recovering addict said that. Your wife caused the addiction. If you don't, good
okay.
God, man. It's
all right.
Crazy
It's just,
to me.
they're just showing their ass.
There's no empathy there for what you've been through and how your brain has changed, and the trauma you've experienced, and what recovery will actually have to look like for you, which is oftentimes like there's EMDR, there's trauma-informed recovery, there's narcissistic-informed recovery and therapy and things like this. And yeah, maybe Al-Anon's part of that, but you got to have a lot of tools in your belt to recover from something like this, from torment, right? Maybe some attachment disorders, attachment wounds, I should say, that have been there for a while, right? There's a lot of things that you have to piece together here. And I think it does everyone a courtesy and a justice to understand and learn more about it. I don't see why we're not having the conversation on day one. And I think that that's again, back to the pros and cons list.
Yeah.
It balances the scales.
Yeah.
It balances the scales. Any relationship worth having is built on mutual respect and trust.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And the next one is going to be that it promotes accountability.
Kind of back to what I was saying earlier,
yeah.
which is that, ultimately I need to know how bad this got. I need to know what I've actually done. Not so I can feel sorry for myself.
Nope.
Not so I can spiral, not so I can use or anything else, because real repair ultimately requires that. And we're selling people short if we're not telling them that early on, is that's what it actually requires. That's what accountability is, dude. You validate someone, right? You validate their pain. That gives them permission to start to talk about it and to start to heal from it. If you're going to write this stuff off and minimize it, or tell them that there are any number of afflictions that don't exist, you're minimizing, you're disregarding the pain, like real, actual pain. And by doing that, you are also avoiding accountability that you desperately need if you want to have better relationships as recovery goes on. You have to acknowledge this stuff, because part of it is the healing piece of it, right? It's acknowledging your journey and what I've done and how it affected you. But the other piece of it is also for me to understand that when I do X, Y happens. I shouldn't do that.
Right.
I don't need to do X.
Like,
I need to understand that X is way worse than I actually think. That is literally accountability.
Right.
Accountability isn't just saying sorry. It's an action, right?
Yeah. And it's like, me personally, if I've harmed someone over and over and over again, and they come to me and they say something about that, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to change that and make that better and take accountability and fix it and figure it out. Because I have a conscience,
Yeah.
So
empathy.
Right. Yeah. And those who don't recognize that, that's actually scary to me. That means that, like, okay, well then they're not really serious about making any changes, because they obviously do not care how they have actually harmed you. So it's really necessary for them to understand how they have harmed you to make changes.
You're absolutely right.
But I know a lot of people, like you said, they'll like even go down that shame spiral, and then they'll just keep on, doing what they were doing before. And then that's the spouse's, sign to say, okay, well then they just may not be the type of person who's going to change and take accountability. So I have to make decisions for myself.
And playing devil's advocate, trying to be as fair as possible, nuance, which is why we'll never go viral, is because we're always going to make sense of statements that, like, Is everyone ready to hear that kind of stuff? Not everyone is ready to hear that sort of thing on day one, which I don't think it should keep us from talking about it. But I think that some people, especially early in recovery, it's so like advanced of a concept for you in that moment when you're just trying to get through withdrawals and you're just trying to understand, like, okay, how do I go to work without going to my car and drinking or something like that? It's an advanced idea to you at some point, and it's like, okay, you should know about this, but it shouldn't be not discussed because someone could shame spiral with it, you know?
Yeah, that's still putting more responsibility on the other person.
Yeah, once again, it's
like there's
let's
conflicting. There's
such
conflicting information. It's like,
man.
You can't say anything, but you need to stand up for yourself.
Right.
It's like, okay, y'all are just confusing the hell
What are
out
we
of me.
doing?
Yeah, and you already said strengthen empathy, so that was actually part of the accountability piece. But
yeah, and beyond just the accountability piece, I think it also should help people who are frustrated maybe with their spouse taking longer to heal, and like why some of their healing isn't as quick as yours is. Because remember, you were the abuser, you were the perpetrator of these things, and it's easier for you to say, right, I'm not a bad person. I was a sick person making mistakes, and I fucked up, and I won't want to do that stuff again. But for them, it is a long process of rewiring their brains. It's a long process of beginning to trust again, and you need to have patience with that. And a lot of patience. And this is also, it's part empathy, but it's also part understanding why spouses take so much longer to heal and why it takes forever to trust again. And why you're not allowed to be pissed at her because you came home late. Where do you think that trigger's coming from? Like, okay, let's diverge for a moment here. Let's take an exit off this highway. Triggers.
Mm-hmm.
Something wasn't mentioned on here, but it's mentioned throughout that manual, right?
Like your triggers.
Family members are guided extensively on how to manage triggers. Triggers for me, triggers for the addict. What to say, what not to say, how to respond, how not to respond, what to have in the house, where to go, where not to go. The list is endless. What about your triggers?
Yeah,
what about your triggers as a spouse or a partner, and the things that we can do that drive them to trigger? And then when they trigger, they're told you need to respond better. You need to be more supportive. You can't respond that way without first having empathy for the reason they're responding that way and the changes that have taken place in their mind that have led them to respond that way. I think that's another piece of it too. Like that's almost for me another episode of its own.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know what? We should actually do that pretty soon. We did a triggers episode early on, but I think that we could revamp it.
Yeah, man. But I think triggers, obviously it goes both ways.
Yeah, it does. It does. But ours are we need to understand it too. I talked about this in my Paige's Perspective episode, is how not only do you guys need to understand our trauma and what you've done to us, we need to understand it too. Because a lot of the times we don't know what our responses are or why we feel stressed or why we are hypervigilant or why we're doing things that are very out of character. Most of the time they're trauma responses, and we need to acknowledge that and recognize that and see that and understand that we need to heal from that.
Yeah.
So we need to understand ourselves just as much as they need to understand us too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that spouses, and like especially Paige here, gets a lot of shit from people for like, oh, so you're just perfect. You don't have a part in any of this. Like no one said that. No one said that. Like there's a lot of stuff that you've worked through when it came to the way that I behave and I show up. But you've also got recovery for everybody. And this is really, recovery is the wrong word. Growth for everyone should include some semblance of discovering where you could just do better in general.
Yep.
And work on that kind of stuff. And it's like everyone's got a responsibility for that. And no one's saying they don't. Like, Don't hear what I'm not saying. We're talking about this specifically.
Yeah.
Just want to make mention of that.
No, that's good. That's awesome. The last pro that we figured was the levels of language.
It just levels the playing field.
Yeah. like society pressures everyone to respect addiction and of the as a disease or whatnot, or understand it.
Right.
It should also pressure, addicts to respect trauma as a real condition too. And our issues as a real thing too.
Right. I think that it's been beat into us. And I swear to you, if you were to post something right now today about your frustration with someone who struggles with addiction, you will get a comment to the effect of they can't help it, they have a disease. Like, how dare you speak in this way about pain that you've experienced? They have a disease, right? Okay, well, if we're going to acknowledge that, let's acknowledge that you also have been afflicted by trauma and the science evidence-based information around what trauma does. Let's talk about it. if we're going to talk about it, let's talk about it. It's got to go both ways.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the cons real quick.
Okay, so cons in all fairness. You're going to get a risk of defensiveness. I mentioned this earlier. Sorry, I said that really fast. Risk of defensiveness. There's a certain point in everyone's journey in early recovery where you're still just frankly, emotionally immature, and you're not ready to take real accountability for a whole lot of stuff. You haven't quite seen the full picture, right? The door's cracked open, but you cannot see the vastness of that room that is real accountability. And so you have surface level accountability, surface level understanding, and some of this stuff is going to garner defensiveness from people. And so we do have to be smart about when we present it and how we present it. I think that that's fair, open to that kind of conversation.
Absolutely.
But people are going to feel like they're being shamed. They're going to be, and it could be weaponized against them, right? This could be used by a spouse or a partner to really like stick a knife in and twist it to someone in the middle of a fight or something like that. And like in all fairness, that could be a con. It really could. It's possible.
Yeah, and it can make them feel like their addiction matters less
than your trauma,
than the other person's trauma. And it's like, why can't we just have both? Like, why can't we discuss both?
Why can't we discuss
why does
both
it have to be
here?
Why does it have to be like equal or not equal or whatever? It's like it's so
people keep score. They love to keep score.
Yeah, it's like, why can't we find the gray area in life in general? I feel like we are such binary thinkers, and it keeps us stuck in so much. Like, let's just find the gray area in this.
Yeah.
It can also be so in early recovery, people may not yet have the capacity for these types of discussions about neuroscience, about trauma, about that stuff. They may need just simple accountability steps. I agree with this. I do agree with this.
We run the risk of over intellectualizing some of this stuff.
Yeah, and I understand. And we've talked about it before, how early recovery was really, really difficult for you. But also, I feel like we could, with the work that we're trying to do, speed up this process just a little bit more.
And I also think that you can have these conversations at the level that someone's ready to hear them at, right? Like, so like, I know the NA literature was written at, I think, a 6th grade reading level, and that was intentional. They recognized that a lot of their members were struggling with some of the vernacular that was in the big book that was written in the 30s by these people with degrees and whatnot, and these quote unquote smart people. There are many forms of intelligence. I'm not saying that, reading comprehension, obviously you can have, you can be plenty smart.
All right.
I always feel like I have to qualify shit here. But anyway, you can come up with or craft plain language to help someone understand it. Like, but could it be a con? Yeah, because I think depending on which message they hear and from whom, it could really affect their overall outlook about the topic in general. We could run the risk of going too deep to.
Right. And that's understandable. And I guess that's pretty complicated because a lot of spouses are like, I need them to hear what they've done to me. I need them to understand what they've done. I need this accountability. I need the amends. I need that. Guys, their brains really like the brain. I understand the brain of it, and they're not ready to understand that stuff. Like, it just doesn't compute yet. It won't, because the substance has done that damage.
Yeah. This always makes me sad and kind of like gives me one of those like, moments is when someone will say, like, at what point do we get to acknowledge my pain and what I've been through? And they may have been like in sobriety for a week or 2 weeks. I'm like, I hope you get there sooner than later. I think that a lot of people I've worked with that I would consider to be in recovery, and remember, that's not just sober, that's accountability, that's change behaviors, that's the whole bit, are acknowledging this stuff early on. If someone's not acknowledging it at all, that would be a red flag to me. Somewhat of a red flag.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I still know that you acknowledged some things early on. We just didn't know the stuff in depth yet. We didn't know that for years.
No.
For years. But that's why we're, doing this. That's why we're here.
Paying my reparations right now, guys.
So the next one was weaponization risk, which is what you talked about. And that's kind of, I even discussed that in my episode, how not to weaponize our content with others, because that's not what we're here for. We are here to educate you. This is for you. This is to help you make decisions for yourself and not push it on somebody else to say, hey, look what they said. This is, this is what you did. This is not okay. And cause it's just not, like, I don't feel like we do that to each other.
No,
right.
Man.
Like even with all the shit that he's done to me and all the things that have been done, like, I don't feel like I ever poked the bear, or like shoved it in your face or anything like that.
In all fairness, I've never given you reason to either.
No, you haven't. Well, no. I mean, I guess you could think of like an active addiction.
No, I'm talking about after the fact.
No.
Yeah. If you stop being an asshole, you'd be shocked how many conversations about you being an asshole come up. There's like none.
No, I mean, I don't think it was necessary for us, but I do know that there's a lot of hurt and that might be a lot deeper than what we had gone through, because we've talked about this before. We were 26 years old when he got sober. So we were young. We did have, I mean, obviously there was a lot of stuff that happened. There was a lot of lying. There was a lot of just dysfunction and unhealthy stuff, but it didn't happen for a long amount of time to where I completely despised you.
Yeah,
I didn't hate you and yet I was still okay with moving forward with you because you were showing me that you wanted to change or whatnot. So I do understand and recognize that some people have a lot more resentment. They have a lot more hurt. They have a lot more things that they need to get off their chest to discuss. And you will be able to get to that point at some point or you won't. It's just really up to you it's your pain tolerance and what you are willing to deal with anymore.
Yeah. And to add on that, everyone's got a different level of just tolerance in general for what they will and will not deal with and what they can kind of process internally and what they can't. And like, that's going to be individual in a lot of ways, I think. And there's gonna be some people, like, remember, there is such a thing as a totaled relationship. There is such a thing as having gone through so much that the work to repair would be more than the useful life of that relationship. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Like, it would take, like, say that it could take forever or never. There was this, there was a TikTok reel, I think, about this guy who had an affair, I think, like 5 years prior. He didn't give a lot of details because he's kind of like a poor me reel. But at the same time, I think he kind of had a point. 5 years after the affair, his wife was still bringing it up in public around their friends. She was embarrassing him at dinner tables, like with groups of people, around his coworkers, and like really rubbing his face in the shit that was on the carpet, Yeah. And it's like, I think that it's totally valid to be hurt and like despise someone after something like that. I'm just wondering why you would rather do that than move forward without them. It sounds to me at that point, like that hurt could just be like, fuck, that might just be too much to come back from. That might be totaled, is what I'm saying. It might be. And if you're at that point, like, consider that. Okay, solution.
Okay. Well, what you got?
Putting you on the spot. I'm going to sit back here and watch.
Okay. Well, this really just is a reminder that your experience matters and you matter. And there's a lot more going on here than you just being angry, right? Like it's deeper than that. And a lot of people, we don't recognize that. We don't realize that. We won't know that for a while. And I mean, that's why we're here to educate you and let you know like why you're angry. But
I was sorry to leave you hanging there. Hang on. The reason I had to do that, I bit my lip so bad just now.
Why?
It just tastes like there's pennies in my mouth.
Let me see. Yeah, you got a little blood.
It's good.
Is it because you had gum? You're
I'm not supposed to be chewing gum, but
no, but it's okay.
I bit my lip in the process. Anyway, I think at the end of every episode, you're like, okay, that's like really good information. Now, what the hell do I do with that? Okay, I think there's a few different ways to look at this. If you are someone who's got a spouse who is in addiction, right, active addiction, if they're still actively using, or maybe they're giving sobriety like a really half-ass effort, and you want them to know this sort of stuff, like, could it hurt anything? No, not necessarily. I think you just have to really tamper your expectations about what they're going to do with it, if that makes sense. And I think it can work in one of two ways. Could this get someone to a point where, like many people I've known, they realize how badly they're hurting other people? And I would also encourage you, go research and watch the videos that Dr. Jake Porter's put out there about betrayal trauma and its effects on the brain. It's really, really interesting, fascinating stuff. You guys can watch that stuff together. But I wouldn't expect them to do much of anything with it. I just wouldn't. I know that so many of you think if I can just explain this in a way that's got depth and weight, they're going to wake up. False. That is not always the case. Oftentimes it's consequences that get people sober, not the threat of them. It's consequences themselves that get people sober. Remember that, whatever that looks like. Consequences can come in numerous ways, right? But I'm not sure what they would do with it, right? Probably invalidate it. Probably maybe argue with you about it, depending on how educated they are about addiction or how indoctrinated they are into a 12-step program or the literature or anything like that.
I know that what you would have done is that you would have made me feel like an idiot for even bringing it up.
Yeah, I probably would have
you would have
invalidated
seriously made me feel like,
you
oh my gosh,
kidding
like
me?
something's
how
wrong
dramatic.
with me. Like it would have been, oh, it's weird. Like thinking about those fights. Like you haven't done that kind of stuff in so long that I have kind of forgotten about.
Let's keep
you
it there.
Doing that.
Next topic. No, but really, I would have. I know I would have. I would have been like, you're being effing dramatic. Are you serious? Oh, you act
you're
like,
being too sensitive
you
about
act
this.
like
That's
you
so
grew up
stupid.
in a war zone or something.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be shitting me. Like, give me a effing break.
Like you have trauma.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
You don't even know what I've been through.
Yeah. Because I lied and came home a little late, or because I was, I didn't answer the phone call when I was on that trip, and you have trauma now. Poor you. I would have 100%. I would expect something similar.
Yep.
Just know that, please, going forward, because I know that a lot of you want to learn. You want your loved one to learn and care as much about this stuff as you do. And I'm trying to get these fools on board. I'm trying to pop up on their FYP.
Yeah, but I think this is important, like for couples that are like going through recovery more, like most importantly, and also people who are in addiction, like. Again, you can't really, there's nothing that you can say that's going to make them have an aha moment. It's gotta be their consequences.
And if you're someone who's like out of a relationship for whatever reason, whether that's by choice or by force or whatever else, restraining order, no contact order, whatever, doesn't matter. I think this ought to be really validating for you. And I hope that you feel validated by the information, and that I would stand up in front of a stadium full of people and fight on your behalf with this. And I know that Paige would too. And you're not crazy for feeling the way that you felt. You're not crazy for hearing this and nodding along going, you know what? That is kind of effed up. That is kind of messed up, to the way that the world kind of forces us, but no one else has to learn about what we've been through. And you're right. And I hope it's validating in that sense. And I hope that you've gotten something from it. And for the very small percentage of you that are trying to work this thing together and you're really genuinely giving it a shot, like this is, and I'm excited because that's a conversation that you guys can have now as opposed to years and years down the road. And you can begin to acknowledge things at a quicker pace than pretty much anyone else is going to. That's huge. That's massive. That's powerful. When you can begin to see the person that you've harmed in that way and really develop empathy, like true empathy for them, things will change in your life. Things will change in your relationship. You will have mutual respect like you hadn't before. Remember, they've done a lot about learning what is going on with us. Mm-hmm. You have to do the same thing. Equal effort into what's going on with them and their own recovery. When spouses and partners say, we have to have recovery too, dude. It's not like I remember this when I was a kid. My brothers would have a birthday and my grandparents would always feel bad that one of them was being recognized and the other one didn't. So they would bring us like a little gift too. They're not saying it because they want to like join along. Like they literally do need recovery. They actually need their own recovery. But this is what it looks like, right? And it can look like if you Googled addiction recovery, you would come up with more options than you can shake a stick at. Mm-hmm. And they would get basically one or two. That's it. That's it, man. Maybe three if you count us. That's pretty much it. So they have to have recovery. And so for those of you that are actually trying to work through it, I think it's amazing. But I think for the probably the biggest slice of people that are listening to this, it's probably just going to be really validating. And it's going to remind you that the person in your life that has led you to this place doesn't give a shit about this. And that's more reason to not respond to that text message or to buy that next lie or that next promise or whatever the hell it is, because until they're about this, they ain't about it. They're not.
Ooh, that's solid.
I think so. My advice. Your hangnail busted open. Oh, it's gooey. You can wipe it on me.
No, I need to go wash it so it doesn't get more infected.
Bro. Paige has had a hangnail that got infected.
It happens sometimes. You've had them before. I know other people that have them too, but it was fine. And now it just like, I was looking bleeding. At it and it started gooing.
I'm bleeding. You got goo coming out of your finger. It's time to roll.
We're falling apart.
It's time to roll. I hope this was validating for you guys. I hope this was informative in some ways. Again, go check out the work of Dr. Jake Porter if you really want to learn more about the specific parts of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, the amygdala.
Betrayal trauma.
Quite literally affected and changed structurally by this sort of
and he talks a lot about infidelity and stuff like that.
It's all the same.
It's
Betrayal,
not
right?
just. It's not. There's still lies.
A lot of these relationships have that very same thing.
Yeah, but the lies affected me more than anything else that you ever did to me, and I know. Yeah. So there's so much that goes into that.
Yeah.
It's not just infidelity.
Absolutely. When your assumptive reality has been changed and you try to tie the two together, your brain's going to struggle. And that's real biological struggle. That's not just hearsay. And that's huge. And you need recovery. And we are going to be here for you. We will keep doing that. We will keep being your voice. And so appreciate you. We appreciate you guys' support. If you haven't left the show a review, we'd really, really appreciate that. Reviews are like the greatest way to help give back to us that costs you absolutely nothing. If you've ever wanted to contribute to the show in some way, we have Paige set up this buy me a coffee link. And you can do that. You can set it up on a one-time basis or a recurring basis. You can find out more about that in our link, like social media links, like our bio.
Well, it's also in the show notes.
It's in the show notes too. Forgot about that. I put that in there. Yeah, but we appreciate y'all's support. Like we wouldn't be here without you guys. We're going to keep doing the deal. And as long as you keep showing up, we will. So until next time, I'm Matt.
I'm Paige.
We'll see you.
Bye.